family, freedom, and the Kentucky way. Do not miss it.
And thanks for staying with us here on Kentucky's Voice. Jim Waters with you. You're hearing this live on the radio, 970 WGTK, and you can watch us this afternoon on television, channel 21 here in Louisville, WBNA, and catch us on YouTube as well, and all across the social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. You can text us today if you have comments or questions about this program or what we're talking about today, 502-571-0970. And you can support us by texting KY Voice to 53555. All opportunities to partner with this conservative media outlet, Kentucky's Voice. Well, in the last segment, it was great to have whistleblower Joel Peyton on to talk about his stand against viewpoint discrimination in Simpson County, Kentucky. And now we want to turn to the legal eagles who made his victory possible. Joining us is Dean McGee, Senior Counsel and Director of Educational Freedom at the Liberty Justice Center. The Liberty Justice Center is a nonprofit, nonpartisan public interest law firm that fiercely advocates for First Amendment rights, fights for freedom, protects small businesses, and stands with families. They provide these vital services, serving everyday Americans who face government overreach and ensuring constitutional protections are upheld nationwide. Dean, thanks for being here today and for your incredible work that your organization does. I always appreciate talking to you guys, and we had you on a few months ago, but glad to have you back today. So thanks for taking a few minutes here to join us.
Pleasure to be here, Jim. Thank you.
Now, you filed this lawsuit on behalf of Joel back in March after he uncovered these undisclosed conflicts of interest in land development projects. That led to an ethics board finding against Judge Executive Mason Barnes. In response, Barnes blocked Joel from his official social media page and used it to attack him and others. I mean, this takes some real guts here. It's kind of bold. I mean, it's boldly wrong, right? But it was just amazing to me how bold that he was in doing this. And your lawsuit that you helped with Joel with invoked Supreme Court precedent, this 2024 ruling in, am I saying this right, Linkey versus Freed, clarifying that government officials are liable under the First Amendment for using social media to engage in viewpoint-based discrimination against constituents. This is a matter of law now, isn't it? So all elected officials should know their social media pages must be open to all, whether they agree or not with them.
That's right, and you hit the nail on the head when you were talking to Joel earlier. Elected officials, they've got First Amendment rights too, and if they want to have a completely personal page where they discuss their opinions and they choose to talk badly about constituents, they can do that. But what the Supreme Court has made clear is that once they're using those pages for public business, as Mr. Barnes was, the First Amendment governs as it should, and the most important bedrock principle in the First Amendment's protection of free speech is that the government can't discriminate against you based on your viewpoint, especially when that viewpoint is critical.
Yeah.
The First Amendment exists to protect criticism of the government from your local school board all the way up to the President of the United States.
Yeah, Dean, we hear a lot about this kind of in the national news, right, with whistleblower cases. But this case and others that you've worked on, we're going to talk about in a moment. But those prove that this local government can be either a great defender or a great enemy of First Amendment rights.
That's true, and often it's the officials in the local government level who are less aware of their obligations under the First Amendment. And we've seen that in Kentucky, but we've seen it around the country. And it's one of the reasons why we bring cases like this. Look, we bring cases like this because we hope we don't have to bring them again. Now, that hope, hasn't come true yet. But we do want to send a message to local officials around the country that this simply is not acceptable. And that once you step into the position of wielding government power, you cannot silence people because you disagree with them. You have to welcome and open up yourself to the criticism that comes with wielding that power.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. And if you don't want to take the heat, don't get in the kitchen, right? I mean, nobody's making anybody run for office here or serve. But if you're going to serve, you're going to have to understand how this works. I guess a lot of these cases probably are about local officials not knowing what their responsibilities are as much as maybe it is anything intentional. But in this case, it was really concerning that this local elected official doubled down on his wrongdoing instead of, as we said in the last segment, discussed, opening up and admitting, saying, hey, made a mistake here. We need to get together on this. So, but this isn't the Liberty Justice Center's only First Amendment victory in Kentucky. Earlier this month, you won another case against the Pulaski County schools where the system blocked a school choice advocate there who commented on his social media page. Corey DeAngelis, I believe, is a friend of this project. Talk a little bit about what happened there, why that matters so much in Kentucky.
Well, as I'm sure anyone listening to this show is aware, last year Kentucky voters had the chance to vote on expanding school choice opportunities pursuant to Amendment 2. And what we saw in the lead up to the vote on Amendment 2 was school districts around the state were using their platforms, essentially using taxpayer resources to fearmonger and lobby voters against Amendment 2. So we saw that happening around the state, and we raised the alarm. Corey did too, as an advocate for educational freedom. And what happened when he did it in Pulaski County is that the school district blocked him, on their official social media pages. So this one didn't even have any nuance. There wasn't any argument that this was a personal page. This was an official government page that was caught doing something illegal, i.e., lobbying with taxpayer money, and then shut down, again, a whistleblower who was raising the alarm on their own social media page. And so we filed that case. And similarly, when faced with the law, when faced with the great Supreme Court precedent that we have from last year, they ultimately settled, unblocked him. And one great result in that case is that we insisted on, and they agreed to, training for their communication staff moving forward under the First Amendment so that the people running those pages know what their obligations are from here on out.
Yeah, and that's so important to send that message, right? To especially for future elections, say, or future campaigns where we try to bring education freedom to the state. Those who are supportive of this, Dean, are already the underdogs here because of this very thing. We've got a governor who brought the radical Randy Weingarten from the American Federation for Teachers into our state to fearmonger across our state and tell our rural areas that their public education systems would be destroyed if we had school choice and gave parents an option. And so they already had a big microphone here, and to be able to, a local school district to use their taxpayer funded resources to deny those same taxpayers the same option and freedom that other parents in other states have is just beyond the pale here. And it really was an audacious attack on freedom and on free speech here. And so I'm hopeful. Are you hopeful that this sends a message to other school districts and especially in the others in the public education establishment, that you can't use taxpayer-funded resources to deny parents freedom and school choice here?
Look, I'm eternally hopeful, but look, we're still doing the work we do because governments continue to break the law and continue to violate people's rights. But that was a really important message to send. Our case focused on the First Amendment, but underlying all of it was that illegal lobbying and the idea of taking taxpayer money intended for education and using it to lobby against expanding educational opportunities for kids was particularly pernicious. And I'm glad we got to take a stand against it.
Well, I certainly am glad too. We're speaking with Dean McGee of the Liberty Justice Center. Dean, across the country, what's happening with the First Amendment? We've got a couple of minutes left here. Across our state and other states, this is such an important right for Americans. It's something that sets us apart from other societies, other cultures. What are your concerns here in these days and times in which we live, especially with social media? Is there a concern that will be used to, in some way, to deny those rights? And is that going to require some more effort in that area?
Look, social media is an incredible tool. It's become the sort of public town square for so many of us. And so I just encourage people to be vigilant about their First Amendment rights digitally, but elsewhere too, and to really take a step back when you're thinking about the First Amendment and remember that it's important to defend the First Amendment rights of people you disagree with too. And that's for individuals and really for politicians, again, from the local level all the way up to the President of the United States, just to remember that, that government is not a tool to be wielded against people you disagree with at any level. And if we can all remember that, and if our elected officials can remember that, we'll live in a freer, better country.
Yeah, I'd rather there be some views expressed and maybe even some radical views that I don't agree with versus shutting down the voices and rights of Americans to speak. I may not agree with you, right? And which I do in this case, and you, but I'm saying in general, we might not always agree, but we should always defend the rights of our fellow citizens and Americans to express their views because there's going to come a day when we need to express ours.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly right. And again, it's that's when it's really trying to defend the First Amendment, but in a way that's when it's the most important.
Very good. Dean McGee, thank you for joining us today from the Liberty Justice Center. We appreciate your time and your efforts on this case and many others. Keep up the good work and please come back and talk to us again.
That'd be my pleasure. Thanks, Jim.
Have a great rest of the day.
You too.